One of the most exciting products to be announced in the past few weeks, I think, is the WiiM Ultra streaming DAC from LinkPlay. Now, LinkPlay is headquartered in the USA, but tells me that it manufactures its WiiM branded devices, its streaming devices, in China. Now, I penned a half-baked preview of the Ultra on my website just before Munich High End a couple of weeks ago. And I say half-baked because LinkPlay withheld the price until Munich High End started officially a few days later. And this is a constant bugbear of mine in the lead up to the world's biggest hi-fi show. But nevertheless, from the show floor, we learnt that the Ultra will sell for an exceptionally keen $329 US. Now, my WiiM Ultra preview on my website generated a huge amount of interest among that audience, which is why I'm making this video, effectively to satisfy demand for information about an exciting product. Now, a review sample of the Ultra won't land at my door for another few weeks, I don't think. I think it's going to be maybe July, not sure. And eventually, the thoughts that I give in this video will lead us to a larger topic that I'll cover down the line. Now, we also didn't learn until Munich High End that the 3.5-inch touchscreen on the Ultra shows us cover art, album metadata and playback controls as we would expect, but it doesn't talk to an Android operating system to give us lossless Apple Music playback and also other sort of streaming services. This touchscreen based streaming control isn't like more costly devices from the likes of Fio, Eversolo and Shanling. And WiiM's Henry Jong told me that the Ultra's operating system is Linux based. I know there are connections between Linux and Android, but basically when we get an Android operating system and a touchscreen, it's more likely that we'll get installable apps for pretty much any streaming service. And that's not the case with the Ultra. Now, what Jong told me was that the operating system inside the Ultra effectively ports parts of the WiiM Home smartphone app to the Ultra to give users touchscreen access to input and output selection, the playback queue, presets and EQ and things like that. But I have to ask, if all of this functionality and more can be accessed via the WiiM Home app from the comfort of the couch, which is here, why do we need a touchscreen on the device over there to do it? So the way I see it, the touchscreen is not the Ultra's main draw card. So now we ask, what is? Now, to answer that, we have to turn the WiiM Ultra around to look at its back panel, and we find there a Toslink input and the all-important HDMI ARC input for TV hookups. And that's on top of the unit streaming support, which, as we know, includes AirPlay 2, Tidal Connect, Spotify Connect, Google Chromecast, Squeeze Lite, and I guess eventually Roon Ready. And as we also know, Qobuz and Amazon Music HD are delivered from within the WiiM Home app itself. Now, I just mentioned Roon, and many of you have asked how I put its now playing screen on my TV. And the short answer is I use an Apple TV app called Roon Remote. And regular viewers will have seen this in action in almost all of the videos that we've made in the last couple of years. So once installed on the Apple TV, you have to remember to enable the Roon Remote extension in Roon's settings before it can play catch on cover art and artist album data from the server. My Nucleus is set over there. However, you can do the same thing without a third-party app if you have a Google Chromecast video device connected to your TV. So Roon will send the music stream to the specified audio endpoint and the now playing visual information screen to the Chromecast device. And I think that's really clever. And I'd like to thank Roon for sponsoring this video. So essentially, if you've used an existing WiiM device, you've used the Ultra, which also offers, I think it has a line level input on the back and an phono input for somebody using a turntable. And Henry Jong told me via email a few days ago that the analog inputs can, in air quotes, can be digitized upon entry, which suggests maybe that the Ultra might have, it's kind of unclear to me, but it might have an analog pass through. But I guess we'll have to wait and see on that one. But wait, there is more. because iPhone owners can make use of the WiiM Ultra's room compensation software. And as we've seen with speakers from Burkhardt and Piega, the Ultra plays 2 minutes of white noise through the speakers. And this allows the WiiM Home app to map the room's acoustic behaviour with the aim of reducing the negative impact of low frequency standing waves. So it's really tackling bass problems. Now you might wonder why this room compensation software doesn't work with Android phones, because it doesn't. And that's because the listening software must be tuned to the phone's microphone. And there are just too many Android phones and therefore too many microphones out there for manufacturers to keep up. Now, interestingly, on outputs, we get coax, Toslink and analog. So we might be able to send a room compensated signal digitally out of the WiiM Ultra into a third-party DAC. I know lots of power users might be interested in that. And Henry Jong also told me via email last week that those SPDIF outputs can be switched between fixed and variable outputs. So if you've got a Peachtree GAN 1, that's pretty useful. And once we factor in the Ultra's subwoofer output, whose high pass and low pass filters can be set inside the WiiM Home app, we begin to see that the Ultra's main attraction is connectivity. Heck, there's even a headphone output on the front panel, which I think, given the Ultra's price point, isn't likely to be anything more than 32 ohm friendly. It's not going to change the world, but it's there if you want it. And I guess I would say that we have to calibrate our expectations accordingly with that. And network nerds will want to know that the Ultra is Wi-Fi 6E compatible. So the way I see it, the Ultra is a supremely affordable preamplifier, both digital and analog, that I think covers pretty much all bases. I mean, I don't see anything missing from the menu here. And to grumble about the absence of balanced inputs or balanced outputs is to ignore the $329 US asking price and all that we do get. The Ultra's glass isn't just half full, it's 95% full in the context of its asking price. Now this preview video means that I won't have to cover off all of the functional nuts and bolts of the Ultra in my forthcoming review video. And that means I'll be able to concentrate on its sound quality, hopefully with some fairly informative side-by-side comparisons. And I guess we should also point out that the Ultra's DAC circuit is built around an ESS, I think it's an ES9038Q2M DAC chip. But before you go trying to prejudge the DAC sound based upon its chip, know that the Ultra's analog output stage, its power supply design, and its clock isolation will have more of an impact on its sound quality than the chip's 32384 high-res PCM capabilities. All of the other stuff around the chip matters more than the chip itself. Anyway, if you enjoyed this little preview, please give us a like down below and consider subscribing to this channel. And as always, my Patreon is open to anyone who wants to buy me a cup of coffee just by signing up for a month. Thanks for watching.